Tonight we're going to talk about theophostic healing. Last session we explored the basics of inner healing. In a nutshell, it allows Jesus to heal the pain we have locked away in our unconscious or in our heart. Today we'll expand this topic by adding the concept of theophostic healing, which allows Jesus to show us the half-truths we still believe in our heart. Because we are stuck, we are unable to advance into the spiritual, emotional, mental wholeness our loving Father wants us to. So last week we introduced the topic of inner healing and allowing Jesus to get back into the hurt spots. So tonight's adding another layer, another concept in with the inner healing idea. And that's to find out what our heart still believes, what we still believe about ourselves that keeps us locked into that cycle where that hurt is. Because when the hurt gets stuck in our heart, it's like that's a stuck point for us. So finding the half-truth, finding the lie that our heart believes, sometimes can allow that healing to just get deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's basically what we're going to talk about tonight. Capital B, Jesus is the reflection of the Father. The reflection of the Father. One of the themes we've been following is the way our loving Father works with our pains and our misery. Understanding His work at this level will bring a new era of growth as we allow our trust and faith to reach out to Him. We require new spiritual eyes to see our traumas and reactions as opportunities to grow. So instead of just getting the traumas and the pains and the problems in our life on top of us and we get buried underneath us, one of the aims that God has for us is to be able to see that those pains and traumas and problems in our life are really opportunities to grow. I think like we've said before, if we lived in a perfect world where there are absolutely no problems that we had to face, there would probably be very, very few people that would try to grow, would try to help their faith get bigger. Most of us would just stay content in our own little pleasant world. So sometimes the problems that shock us enough to say, hey, I'm sick and tired of this, and so I want to do something different. So it's like seeing the problems as opportunities rather than things that just get on top of us. However, our heart reactions may be very disabling. Our Heavenly Father loves us too much to leave us in the painful, harmful dysfunctions we find within ourselves. Working with Him allows His miracle power to help us see the problems and find His way of solving our dysfunction. We must learn to work with Him, not against Him. Remember, one of the things we've said in the past is that we're all dysfunctional. We've all come from dysfunctional homes. We've all come from dysfunctional lifestyles, from dysfunctional coping methods. So it's having Jesus in our life that brings us into normal. Otherwise, we are all dysfunctional. So we all start that way. So it's Jesus that allows us to have the health and the normalcy in our life. Capital C, the work of Dr. Ed Smith and the theophostic theory. The theophostic theory. For some reason, leaving the past behind is harder for people whose heart and mind have not resolved old hurts and pains. Forgiveness is widely taught, yet for many people their heart is still not ready to release unforgiveness and enter into the restoration process. So some people it's easier for them to work through the release and to restore a relationship with forgiveness. But other people it's really, really hard. So there must be something in there, some key that helps people who have lots of hurts and lots of trauma to be able to step into forgiveness and be able to work with their heart and release it. Dr. Ed Smith, in his work with SRA, sexually ritually abused, and fractured personality, first copyrighted the word theophostic. This term means theo, which means light, and which means God, and phostic, which means bringing light. Remember when you were back in science class and you went into the dark room and here were these rocks that glowed? You remember that experience going through, or the mines that you go through and you see all this display and you had green rocks and yellow rocks and red rocks that glowed in the dark? What made them glow? What were they called? Phosphorus, okay. So that's the same word here Phostic, or phosphorus, is light. So the rocks glowed with the light. So what Dr. Smith did was take theo, which means God, and glowing or bringing light, and he put those two words together. Dr. Smith found that he could teach his clients to follow their reactions, strong emotions, and traumatic memories into the past. They could allow Jesus to expose the lies that they still believed about themselves and get their healing. So Dr. Smith worked with SRA groups of people, sexually ritually abused, with dissociative identity disorder people, so fractured personalities. So was it pretty easy people he was working with? No. Some of the most traumatized people that you'd ever find are people that have gone through the SRA stuff and the fractured personalities. It comes from deep trauma in their childhood. So he began to say that these reactions that people had were a way of tracing back where the hurt was. So he didn't sit and just hold their hand and say, yeah, how sorry it was and how terrible it was what they went through. He tried to teach them that the reactions that they were having were really windows into their heart, that they could say, okay, I'm having this really, someone pushed my button and I'm just reacting. I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm feeling abused, I'm feeling whatever. And he'd say, okay, I hear that, but let's use that to find out where the hurt is. Because when we react to something, it means there's something stuck in our heart. So he began to teach his people how to do that. Put simply, this insight model reveals the inner self-talk that keeps the pain embedded in the personality. The inner lie or half-truth we still believe about ourselves, and then alters that by using inner healing principles. So he'd help his people that, for example, someone that had been abused by the cult and was really, for example, reacting to males, and particularly males with beards and glasses. And they'd come in and they'd just say, well, I just found another one and I just intensely hate them and I wish they'd all just... on and on and on and on. And he'd say, okay, let's catch that reaction, because are all men with beards and glasses terrible people? I hope not, Owen. No, they're not. So her reaction was over-the-top reaction. So he'd say, okay, catch the reaction. Let's find out where that reaction's coming from. And then by using inner healing principles, he could get back to the point where that pain was happening. And he'd usually find that somewhere along the way she'd been abused by someone with a beard and glasses. And so she was transferring that anger onto everybody that had a beard and glasses. And certainly that's not fair to all the innocent ones, but that's what was happening. That was her strong reaction. So if he could get that person back to the beginnings of when that reaction happened, he could bring the truth. Because often that person believed some lie about what happened at that situation. What might be some lies that they might believe? They've been abused by someone with a beard and glasses. So what lie might they believe? That all men with beards and glasses, beard and glasses abuse. Yes, that's one. Or that she deserved being abused by men with beard and glasses. They don't have more than one beard, but yeah. So he began to investigate the lie that the heart still believed, and then allowing Jesus to come in and give her the truth helped her break that whole thing free. So he wanted them to see, capital D, your reactions are the window to your heart. Your reactions are the window to your heart. One of the greatest revelations to come out of a counseling room is the fact that we all face repeated patterns of dysfunction. These cycles become a God-given opportunity to work on heart issues if we allow him to help. So people who come into the counseling room usually know that they have some problems, that they're caught in some cycles. So they're seeing those as chances to work on something. They're trying to get free of those cycles. So one of the first things that we realize is, number one, the present problem is not the real issue. The present problem is not the real issue. And this is a classic example of when two people who are married come into counseling and they're working on marriage problems. And he might say, well, she is so fussy about me doing the breakfast dishes in the morning that if I don't do them her way, she gets grumpy all day long, and then I get the silent treatment, and then she won't talk to me, and on and on and on and on and on it goes. Is that an issue that just started that morning? No. If you trace it back, you find probably it started way back in their early years of marriage. But for a lot of people, is that the roots of that sort of an issue? No, it probably goes back to what mother said, either to the daughter growing up about how you must do dishes, or to the son putting him down because he didn't do them the way that she said. So a lot of the issues that we face are not the issues of the present, but they're echoes of something that's happened in the past. And we talked about this a little bit before, or a little bit last time. So an example, and certainly I think we use this example. If I came in and I had a spider, and I went suddenly, ah, what would be the reaction? That's right. I'd have 20 different reactions. Everything from somebody screaming, tipping the table over, grabbing their stuff and running out. I'd never, ever, ever, ever seen him again. To some people that would say, Susan brought a spider. I wonder what color it is. Oh, isn't that a beautiful green spider? And especially if it turns out to be a rubber one, they'd sit there and laugh at how silly the whole thing was. So it's the same incident, same little green rubber spider, but what made the difference between the person who ran out and the person who sat and laughed? What made the difference? Sorry, Elaine, say again?
When they first saw the spider,
yes.
Whoever was with them, maybe how they sort of handled the child.
Yes. So it goes back to the past. So often the very first time that they had any experiences with the spider. And if mother went over the top and rushed out with a can of hairspray and went zzz, then that little girl, that little boy would probably have the same reactions to spiders. Or if mother said, now look at this spider, see how it makes a web and see how the web glows in the sunshine and see how the spiders catch good stuff, it can catch bad stuff in the garden so that it can eat and it helps the flowers. What would the little child then have the feelings about spiders? That they're okay. That you have to respect them, because particularly spiders in Australia, you have to respect them. You don't go poking strange ones unless you jump out of the way. But you have that's an interesting sort of feeling of that's one of God's creation. It's not of intense fear. So the reaction, again, comes from what's happened in the past. And the vast majority of the reactions that we face today are exactly that. They're echoes of something that happened in the past. Now, I could certainly call the person back in that screamed and jumped and ran, and I could call him back in, and I could sit him down, and I could teach him 10 different ways to avoid spiders. Would that help the real issue? No. The real issue is the fear that got started way, way, way back there is that little person, and that still is in there. Because what half-truth or lie did they believe back there is that little person? What did they believe about spiders? That spiders are dangerous. And something as little tiny as that has power over you that might hurt you, so you have to flee, you have to get away. Now, is that truth? Is that truth? Okay. So that means some of them you do not reach over and pick them up and say, oh, isn't that a beautiful little spider? You show a healthy respect for. But a rubber green spider, would that be dangerous? No. But you can see just from the way that you're responding to the way that I'm talking, yeah, you understand what I'm saying. That something like that is an inbred fear. It's something that you've picked up. So there's the echo somewhere down the line if you want to get over it. In the above example, each event was the same, so why were the outcomes different? It's the individual's thinking patterns about the event that triggered different emotional response. Remember we put up on the board the sequence. So if you want to change your behavior, you look at what? Your emotions, that's right. If you want to understand your emotions, you look at your thinking patterns. That's right. If you understand your thinking patterns, your emotion, your behavior, you look at the ta-da-da-da-da-da heart. That's right. So people who are having trouble with their emotions, they don't learn 15 new ways to try to bury their emotions. They need to learn 15 new ways of what? Changing their thinking, that's right. Because it's your thinking about the event that caused the emotions. So it's the thinking about seeing this spider all at once flung towards you that caused the emotions that made people scream or run out of the room. So the behavior was the screaming, running out of the room. So if you want to change the screaming, run out of the room response to spiders, what do you look at? The emotions. If you want to look at you want to change the emotions about the spiders, what do you look at? Your thinking patterns. But the whole thing comes out of the heart. Good. Put another way, everyday pain and reactions are not from the present event, the spider, but what we still believe about the event, the half-truths and the lies that our heart still holds. Like others have said, the past can't hurt you. You will never be that lost little child again. The problem is the mental computer program belief that started at the trauma point. And those same patterns are there today, continuing to cause behavior. So you're never going to go back and be that little boy, that little girl that got so traumatized. But at that point where you got traumatized is where certain computer thinking patterns began to start. Because remember, our mind is like a computer. If you put trauma in, what are you going to get out of your mind? Trauma. If you put healing into your mind, what do you get out? You get healing. All right? So it isn't the event so much as the thinking patterns that got started about that event that we still struggle with today. So if someone says to you, well, just claim what Jesus did for you and just get on with it, what's wrong with that philosophy? Doesn't go into the deeper issue. So it teaches you another level of denial. That's right. Because it's true, though, Jesus has done every single thing. We've talked about this before. He's done every single thing. He doesn't say, oh, I forgot Suzanne's going to be going through this trauma, so I better go back and do a little bit more work for Suzanne to make it. No, total, finished, done. Jesus said, it's finished, it's completed when he died on the cross. Finished, done, that's it. I don't have to put one more full stop, one more paragraph, one more nothing. It's finished and done. So then the problem is us tapping into the power source that allows it to be finished and done. So, heart belief stuff, yep. We all have buried memories along with their emotional responses in our heart. Any reaction means something is happening in the heart. If we're going to be healed, we must feel the pain, understand the reactions, and discover clues, half-truths still stuck in our heart's belief system. But most people, when you say, I want you to step into the pain of those emotions, because that's where the truth is, that's where the healing is, what's most people's reaction? No, thank you. I don't want to have anything to do with my pain. That's why I keep putting concrete over it, why I keep trying to ignore it, while I keep trying to not deal with it. So it takes a real turning around in your thinking pattern, doesn't it? Because most of us avoid pain. That's just part of human beings. But sometimes having to step back into the pain to find our healing is the very best thing to do. It's like if you go into a doctor and you say, it hurts somewhere there. So he'll say, there? No. There? No. There? Ouch! Yes, that's where the pain is. So in order to find the pain, that's what the doctor has to do in order to say, okay, you got a dislocated shoulder. Not a pulled muscle, you got a dislocated shoulder. So sometimes stepping into the pain is important because that's where the healing process is. The following are a list of coping methods commonly used by hurting people. Some of you will recognize this list before because we've seen it before. We've dropped a paragraph. Number 2, the key lies in finding what the heart still believes. The key lies in finding what the heart still believes. So we're started off saying that sometimes you have to step into the pain because that's part of the cycle. So how do we undo emotional reactions and triggers? How do we undo all of this stuff? Now you've got the basis of the idea of the theory. How do we undo it? We all develop coping methods to handle painful memories and experiences. These are the faulty ways we have adapted to cope with these painful traumatic memories that keep us in our dysfunction. One of the basic things we were saying in the psychology of Jesus is that the reason we have problems today is because we haven't learned to do what? Cope with our problems in healthy, God-given ways. So if we have dysfunctional coping methods, what's that going to do with our problems? Going to make them bigger. It doesn't solve them, it just makes them bigger. So learning healthy coping methods is the key to healthy emotional and spiritual health. And then as that goes through, physical health will get better as well. So the following is a list of coping methods commonly used by hurting people. And as you go through this, you'll see that 100% of us use one or more of these. Analyzing. So I'm sure you've been around people who analyze their problem to the nth degree. So they understand it all right, but they don't get the release of the pain from it. So analyzing. Some people attack others. So blame shifting. All the tricks that Adam and Eve did. Avoiding the whole issue. And sometimes we can avoid it by just getting so busy we don't have time to stop and think about what the issue is. Being smug. Blaming others, compliant to other people's expectations. So we just go along with what other people are demanding. We don't stop to work it through and say, well, this is a problem to me and I don't want to do it. Just compliance. Condemning circumstances. So we blame our job, we blame the people around us, etc., etc. Or sometimes we blame God. Sometimes we develop a contempt for ourselves. How come I can't do better than this? I must be hopeless, I must be a worm. All that sort of thinking. Debating. Again, that's sort of like analyzing. Some people are good debaters, so they can debate the problem with other people who have the same problem. Defying God. Denying a problem exists. Evading or dodging the truth. Explaining away the problem. Generalizing it to avoid specifics. Interrogating others or intimidating others. Joking about the problem. And certainly having a sense of humor is important, but I'm sure you've been around people that they just laughed so much at their own problems, you began to wonder, is that the only way they can deal with their problems, is just to laugh and make fun of it and make a joke of it. Judged is particularly to judge others that are in the same problem, that they're worse off than you are. Minimize the problem, procrastinate on doing anything about the problem, project the problem onto others. Rationalize, sidetrack from real issues. Sometimes using silence and withdrawal so others don't even know we've got a problem. Spiritualizing it or making mystical experiences from what we're going through, acting superior, or threatening others who know that the problem even exists, or verbalizing or talking too much to cover up the pain. And that's a very common one you see in a counseling room. Some people just need to just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk because there's so much stuff in there. They do just need to talk and 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 talk. So one of the skills of a good counselor is how to allow the person to talk, but yet to bring some sort of dividing line of saying, okay, now let's do something about the problem. But some people are very good at talking about it, but never getting around to doing something about it. So any of those that sort of go, ding, yeah. Yes?
Susan, I just noticed that there's no addictions in that list. Where does
No.
Addictions?
Yeah, addictions. Probably when you get using one again and again and again and again, then that would be a sign of an addiction. Addictions are sort of the sidetracking or the basically what it is just going into something else to cover up the pain, and doing that so much, and especially with harmful substances, then your body becomes addicted to it. So it's a way of releasing, of coping with the pain. So that would be avoiding the issue would be addictions, dodging the truth would be addictions, rationalizing, silence, withdrawal. So the addictions are the fruit of one of those. Well, that would be the behavior that would be leading on to what the addiction is. The addiction is the final outcome of what we really turn to, whether it's gambling or smoking or alcohol or sex or TV or whatever. Yeah, does that help it explain it?
I'm also wondering about the opposite of talking too much. If there is a problem but the person doesn't seem to be able to verbalise it,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it might be like awareness from the person, but
Mm-hmm.
is it possible that there are other mechanisms?
Other mechanisms, yeah, such as?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's hard for a counsellor to know what the problem is if the counsellee can't
Mm-hmm.
speak it out.
Yes. Yeah.
But and it's hard to tell the difference between denial.
Between denial and
Evasion.
evasion, yeah. I'm sort of repeating what you're saying
Yeah, I
for
understand.
the tape. Yeah. I suppose that's another reason why I like to do heart work, because even someone that is so locked into their perspective they don't have any insight as to why it's happening, they still, once they start hearing what's happening in their heart and letting the Lord talk to them, the insight comes. Does that make sense? I don't think that's quite what your question was, but
Yeah, that's sufficient.
okay. Graham?
Just wondering, Susan, everybody does those things
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
And I was wondering whether, first of all, whether there was some benefit that perhaps came out of these
Mm-hmm.
things.
Some benefit, yes.
Secondly, whether perhaps you have to go through them rather than try to sort of go around them. You know,
Mhm.
people are doing this,
Mhm.
and it's a sign that they have to go through it.
A sign they have to go through it. Okay, there's two questions there here. All right, what's one reason why we all use coping methods? To be able to handle the pain, to just survive. So a lot of these things start out with that they're good, all right, because they help us get through a painful situation. But it's like where the problem is, they begin to be like the cast on the broken leg. And rather than step through them, like what you're saying, rather than step through them and be able to leave the coping method behind and go on to godly coping methods, we stick with the one we're sort of stuck in that. And then it becomes more of the dysfunction. So if we've got some sort of problem, for example, if I have a problem with Daniel, and to start with, I analyze, I explain, I try to debate with others, I try to get, let people know I'm having a problem. But if I get stuck in the rationalization, explaining this is what's happening, and never say, okay, God, what do you want me to do about it? What's the problem here? Then it's a way of coping with the pain, yes, but the pain's back there, and I've never really dealt with it. I'm stuck in the coping method. And that's where it becomes more dysfunctional. Because all of us have learned these dysfunctional coping things back when we were little tackers and we didn't even realize we're picking it up. Because that's how Mom and Dad did it. All right, everybody with me? Okay, tell me some godly coping methods. I have the problem with Daniel. What's some godly ways I should handle it? Talk to him. So healthy conflict resolution stuff. And the Bible says, yes, forgive 70 times 70. But what's also in that chapter? Same chapter, the Lord says what? If I have anything against somebody, what do I do? I go to them and I talk about it. Or if I think they have something against me, what do? I go and talk to them. So either way, the bases are covered. So to go to that person and talk to them. Some of the most horrific counseling situations that I've seen is when people don't do that, especially with church hurts. And then all the gossip and the innuendo gets going and, just horrific pain. And it would have stopped the whole thing if someone had gone and talked to someone else. So if someone had gone and talked to the pianist about the, some comment or whatever, and her feathers wouldn't have got ruffled, and she wouldn't have gone off and done this and said something else, and then someone else said something else, and pretty soon there's a huge bonfire that people are trying to put out. So going and talking to that person, yes, healthy conflict resolution stuff. And not me just being a doormat for the 80th time, but saying, no, this really hurts, Lord, what do you want me to do about it? So conflict resolution, 2.
About forgiveness.
And forgiveness, yes. Working through, okay, this is something that has hurt me in the past because it's something my dad did way back there. So yes, I work through the forgiveness with Daniel, but I also go back and I deal with some of the roots back there with forgiveness. If you could take all the things that Jesus taught and put them all on a top 10 list, where would forgiveness be? Pretty close to the top, because that's the only way we can get through all the hurts that we face in life is forgiveness. No other way. You can try conflict resolution till you're blue in the face. Does it work 100% of the time? No. You're still going to have some people say, well, that's the way I see it, so if you don't like it, you can leave. And you're going to have people do that. Forgiveness, yeah? It's the only way. It's the only thing. Anything else starts up. That's right. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Sometimes the other person may not be ready,
Mm-hmm.
and they will react against
Yes.
you, and then
That's true. So timing is essential. Mm-hmm. Yep. So what you started out by saying is one of the healthiest godly resolution conflict coping methods is, God, what do you want me to do here? And sometimes he might say, well, wait until Daniel's in a better mood and then you can go and talk to him about it. So the timing thing, yes, very true, Maria. Timing is very important. But to stop and say, God, here's a problem. What do you want me to do about this, Lord Jesus? And most of us, that just goes zoom, right? Over the top of our head. We miss the opportunity because we're already in the reaction cycles rather than saying, Lord, what do you want me to do here? That's how Jesus could do it, because his every moment was in tune with what God was saying to him. So, Father, what do you want me to do here? And God told him what to do.
And sometimes in that, when you ask,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want me to do,
Mm-hmm.
it's in that time when you're listening
Mm-hmm.
that you can say, well, before you do that,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you
To work through this, yeah. That's right. And get the...
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that thing
That's right.
makes the other issue really not
That's true.
the issue.
Because sometimes he says, get the log out of your own eye before you go after the speck in somebody else's eye. But we're so good about going after the speck that we miss the log. So, yeah. In fact, there's probably about 4 or 5 seconds in there between the event and the reactions. That's that space where you can do that, where you can say, Lord, what do you want me to do here? So between the event and the reaction, because once the reaction gets on top of you, it's hard to slow it down enough to say, Lord, what do you want me to do here? You still can, but it's like those 4 or 5 seconds is the window of opportunity. And if we can train our mind, if we can train our heart, if we can train our spirit to catch those 4 or 5 seconds, certainly saves a whole lot of junk all the way down the line. We can just learn to do it.
Sometimes in that, then say you haven't done it when you should.
Yes, you haven't done it.
Or
Mm-hmm.
that's right. So then it can be that you go to the other person asking them, so I really would like you to forgive me for my.
Mhm.
And when you did
Yes,
that,
yes.
clear that out of the way, but
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
you sort of get it that way as well.
Yes.
You're-
Yeah. Probably one thing we're not really good at is, Lord, what do you want me to do in restitution of my anger that I just hurt that person? So what do you want me to do in restitution for what I just did? Yeah. Good. So there's that great big long list of things that we all do all of that. So it's not heaping guilt and shame on you that you picked out number 7 on the list, because we all do that. We've learned those dysfunctional coping methods all the way back from little tackers, because that's what we saw from our parents. So there's no condemnation in it. It's just something we all need to take and work with the Lord. We sometimes have to work through the barriers to be released into the healing. God does not want us to continue in these dysfunctional, faulty coping methods. He wants us to see our true heart reactions and our problem emotions so we can clean out our heart, not to deny these problems. And I don't know about you, but it is so easy when you start maybe just having a little physical problem that's just sort of niggling away in the back of your mind. For example, a headache. How easy it is just to keep going and keep going and keep going. Maybe take an aspirin and then keep going and keep going and keep going. When the godly thing to do would be what? What would be a godly coping method rather than reaching for a disprin? Ask, okay, yes, Vincent, Lord, I feel this tension. What's happening here? What am I doing? What's my stress level? So checking stress level. Or turning to someone and say, I've got a real headache. Will you pray for me? Rather than just reach for the disprin bottle. So we all do it, don't we? Yes, don't we? Yes, we all do it. But it's catching ourselves in it and being able to turn it around and let the Lord get in there that turns the whole problem around for us. Because He wants to clean out our heart, not to deny the problem. So the sequence goes like this. So again, heart, thinking, emotions, and your reactions, your behavior. If you want to change your behavior, work on understanding your emotions. However, emotions are expressed because of the thinking habits. So change emotions by changing your thinking habits. However, the real roots of everything are coming out of the heart. And we did that little diagram in times past where I put it up on the board. You want me to put it back up on the board? Okay. Behavior. So the things that I do, I'll spell it. I-O-U-R. Your reactions. So if I want to understand my behavior, I look at my emotions. They're all over the place. Emotions. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling fearful. I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling whatever. But to understand why I am feeling insecure, I look at the thinking about it. So I might be feeling insecure because my thinking patterns go what? Sorry? They're all over the place, yeah, but my thinking patterns might be, I'm in a situation here that I don't know what's going on. And I don't know if I feel like I'm out of control. I don't know what's going to happen. So that's going to lead to the emotions all over the place. But the feeling like I'm out of control comes out of the heart. So why might I be feeling out of control or fearful or insecure? Because you can't control the situation. I might have just heard that car alarm and said, oh, someone's breaking into my car. So my heart's fearful, and especially if it's a little red car out there, it might just be the treasure in my heart. And if someone's into the treasure in my heart, what's going to happen? I'm going to feel really insecure. So yeah, it's going to come out of the heart. So yeah, you can change behavior. Remember, we talked last time about a whole brand of counseling does just that, behavioralists. So they teach you rewards and punishments. And most of us went through an education system that was extremely good in that. So if we did really good on assignments, what did we get? Good marks. If you did terrible, you got detention. So rewards and punishments. So that's behavior theory. You govern your behavior by rewards and punishment. Then a whole group of counseling thinking and counseling theory goes with thinking problems. So what do they try to help you do? Look at your self-talk and what's the patterns going around inside your mind. So the cognitive having to do with thinking patterns. And then the other group is called what? Insight. That's right. So trying to find out why do I do what I do when I don't want to do it. Oh yeah, that's what it is. The little light bulb goes on inside. Oh yeah, it's because Mother did that to me. So I have insight in order to change that. Now those are all important, because if you don't have behavior changes and you just got the I know why I do it, but I can't undo it, and you've got the insight, but you don't have all the other things that help you change behavior. So you need all of those. And you can find all of those in the Bible. Okay, so heart, thinking patterns, emotions, and reactions. Which of these elements you think are the most important? Which of these elements you think are the most important will determine your theory of how healing works. If you think behavior is the most important thing in this cycle, in this sequence, You're going to put a lot of your emphasis on changing your behavior. You're going to learn 10 different ways to handle your fear of spiders. If you think understanding why you think about spiders the way you do, and that's where your theories go into, then you're going to try a lot to change your self-talk about spiders. But if you think insight is important, what are you going to be doing? Try to... Well, that might be an end result, Graham. I don't know how many people can get to that point where you love the spider and give it a big hug. Most of it, just chuck it outside if nothing else. But yeah, insight. If you want to find out why you feel the way you do about spiders, you're looking for insight, the aha thing. So, number 3, discovering faulty thinking patterns. Faulty thinking patterns. If we have deceived faulty truths in our heart and mind, our whole life is affected. An important part of bringing healing to the heart and the mind is to help sort out what is truth and what is deception. So if I'm that little girl that was so traumatized by spiders back with my mother, particularly the trauma that went so deep that every time I walk in a room, don't see any spider webs in here, so okay, maybe I'm safe. Then the spiders and the fear of spiders is beginning to control my life. So that would be very important to get down to what my heart believes about spiders. And we've already talked about that. If my heart believes that spiders are threatening, dangerous things, then that might determine my fear level, which is going to determine my whole actions towards spiders. So getting in and finding out what my heart believes about spiders is very important. What holds the reaction in place is some faulty thinking, some half-truths we believe about the situation or about ourselves. The pain, emotions, and the reactions are signs of lies that our heart believes. So the pain, the emotions, the reactions are signs of lies that my heart still believes. So if I am reacting to men with beards and glasses, my heart believes something in there. And that's triggering the reactions. So I have to get down to what my heart believes in order to get free of that whole button being pushed. Again, it's not the present situation that's the problem. It's our heart belief about the event that needs changing. The solution is to find the intensely painful lies I still believe. These lies allow and hide the enemy's work. So who really would be behind me being so paranoid about spiders that I have to check out the room before I can feel comfortable and look for every spider web and look under tables? Who would be behind that fear? The enemy. So how does he get me with that fear? Because my heart and my mind still believe something. So again, we could teach 5 different ways of spiritual warfare to come against the fear, and that is often very, very important. But it's more important to get down to what's happening in my heart that's allowing that fear to be there. I get rid of that fear, and then can the enemy have the legal right to hurt me anymore in that area? No. Might have 15 other things that I have to get rid of as well. But it's the process of, okay, I've got this one thing, God deal with me on this one thing. Okay, finished, done, I can now finish it. Number 2 thing, finished, done, tick. By the time I've gone through that for 6 months and I've gone through number 10 on the list, am I getting freer? You better believe it. You betcha. But it's stopping myself enough in the reactions to say, okay, this is a reaction I want to deal with. Instead of just keeping on, getting so busy that we just don't have time to deal with our own issues. And we're all really good at that. At least I'm really good at it. I presume you're human beings too. So the lies allow the enemy to keep his work going in our lives. So, number 4, be concerned about the rubbish tip. Be concerned about the rubbish tip. Every ungodly activity or trauma especially where some authority was involved, leaves behind a demonic power to keep that activity going. Now, how's that for an interesting statement? That's one I borrowed from, I think it was Horribins when they were teaching on this area. So it's like any point in our life where we've had trauma, especially where somebody in authority has been involved, it's like there's a bruise there, a hurt there, a wound there. And it's the wounds that the enemy still, that's the wounds that where he builds his base in our heart.
Does that mean it's a legal right or just an opportunity?
It's a legal right. And what usually happens, one of the things I like to do is ask people for the Lord to give them a picture of their heart. So it's interesting, all the different kinds of pictures of heart, of people's heart that I get. Give me some examples. Hearts that are broken. You betcha. So hearts that are broken. What else? Scarred. Got lots of darts in them, yeah.
Lots of lies.
Lies, yeah. But how about, we'll say the lies are like darts, like arrows. Those are supposed to be little arrows. They don't look like little arrows very well. But
Blocks of ice.
blocks of ice.
Yes.
Okay, yep, that's a good one, Maureen. So it's like the heart is a big block of ice.
Chain. It's like
Chains, yeah, that's a very common one. So chains around the heart. Yeah, what else?
What about one that's broken in little pieces all over?
Shattered, yeah. You betcha. So take this heart and just little pieces all over. Or ones that are crazed, so little tiny cracks everywhere. Just lots of tiny little cracks everywhere. Yep, what else? Hard, yeah. So not only the ice block, but it's hard, really hard. The Lord gave Daniel an interesting picture of his heart. It was like this little shriveled up pea that was hard and dry. That was one of Daniel's first pictures from the Lord of what his heart was like. So what was the Lord saying about his heart? It was shriveled up and hard, and yeah, and it was God's love that began to grow and expand his heart. Now, if I've been involved in lots of sexual activities when I've given part of my heart away, what's that going to do to my heart? Yeah, and not only that, there's going to be pieces gone out of my heart. So I've given those pieces away to somebody.
Somebody said to me just last week that there was just an empty space.
An empty
The
space.
heart was gone, just the heart wasn't there, it was just an empty space.
So there was the outer layer, the outer whatever was condition it was in, but inside it was just empty. Yes? Yep. Yep. Now you might say, well, Susan, that's a pretty absurd picture. That's, you know, it must be pretty rare. Is it? No. No.
Put a big balloon on it too.
Sorry?
Put a big balloon on it.
Yeah? Yeah. One person that one of the other lead counselors was working with had an interesting picture of her heart that, and she said little children are basically heart with head, arms, and legs. And little children are all heart except for arms and legs and a head. So what does that say about our heart if we were like that as children? Yeah. And if we didn't learn how to protect it early enough, or if our parents didn't protect our heart, what's happening to our heart all the time? Yeah. Pretty traumatized. Yeah. So yeah, that's the usual picture of people when they start working on heart stuff. Is the heart has been so hurt and so wounded. And most of us get so good at covering up that, and maybe the mind coming in and using all the logic to explain it all away, that we've just almost disassociated from our heart, the pain that our heart really feels. Mm-hmm.
If we take that every ungodly activity leaves behind some demonic power,
Yep.
that would apply to just about everyone
Really?
in the world.
That's very true. That's how the enemy gets in, because it's like these hurts and these bruises is where he builds his nest. So if this is an incident back when I was in my childhood where my stepdad did something that, traumatized me, or, allowed something to happen that traumatized me, it's like that base, that's the bruise. So the enemy sets up his little stronghold there in that base with all the hurt feelings and all the emotions and all the anger and all the resentment and all the rage, and the enemy then feeds on that. So that the bruises in our heart is where the enemy hooks in his talons, his hooks. So what's the answer? Sorry? Mend it. Yeah, that's right. Sometimes the heart transplant. That's right. And sometimes the Lord does do that. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yes. And then we have to learn how to guard our heart so it doesn't happen now again and again and again. But yeah, that's where the whole human race is. And that's how come the enemy can get his strongholds, his networks in our lives, is on those bruise spots. So, a legal right for the enemy's work is set up if that person does not use godly coping methods. So in this incident, if I harden my heart and I keep that wound in there and I just grow it with unforgiveness and anger and resentment, and it just bubbles away and bubbles away and bubbles away, yeah, that's the way the enemy gets a legal right into my life. Because then he could influence all that unforgiveness and anger and pain, and it just grows and bubbles away and bubbles away. Rose? Yes. Yes. A lie, yeah.
And you said you had little right for the enemy about a wound in the heart. So
Yes.
really, where the enemy sits is the lie sitting there because he's the father of lies.
That's right.
That would be true.
Yes, yes, he's the father of lies, so he sits there on that lie.
So removing the lie would remove you out of it.
You got it. That's right. Removing the lie means that he now doesn't have that hold on my heart. It can't sit there anymore. Yeah, good. All right, so you see how important it is to get down to some of these lies that our heart still believes about things. And if we could really let the Lord investigate what's in our heart, we probably, all of us have multitudes of lies that we still believe. So some lies are more important than others that we get down to and pull apart. And we'll talk about those in a few minutes. Okay, yeah, that's right. It's the lies that we still believe that allow the enemy to keep the work going in our heart, and the reactions and the destruction that happen in our lives. So you can see if someone's gone through some occult activity where this was deliberately caused, and they learned how to split and disassociate themselves, and that's the major network that Satan has in their life. So it's very, very important to get down to the lies, and that's where some of the theophostic stuff started. When Dr. Smith was working with people like this, he found that he could bring inner healing, but if they didn't get in touch with what was the lie that was the hook in there, it didn't stick. It was like a sieve. It'd just come and come and come, but it didn't stick. So getting down to the lie was very crucial, was very important. Now, the demonic can exist and thrive in a heart full of brokenness, trauma, bitterness, and unforgiveness. The nest results in overreactions and infected emotions. Walls and masks are erected and distorted sexual patterns develop. When handling the body's stress, physical symptoms then begin and major illnesses can result. So like somebody's already pointed out, welcome to the human race. That's how Satan does it. He doesn't walk up to you and say, hey, believe this lie, does he? No, he's much more subtle than that. It's just woven into the experience that we've had. But it's the lie that's in there that we still believe. It's very important we get in touch with our inner heart beliefs. It's in our heart, our unconscious, that we believe such things as. And here's some of the big sticky lies that people really, really believe. Nobody knew or cared about me. I don't matter. And maybe God doesn't really care either. We all go through confusion when our mental awareness has trouble accepting and refiling the events in order to make sense of the world. Since what we perceive as reality is what our mind and heart really believe, it's important to sort out these beliefs. So your perception of the reality around you is based on what your mind and your heart really believes. So if you really believe, we talked a little bit about this before, if you really believe that you're a worm, you act like a worm, what's going to happen? People are going to treat you like a worm, which reinforces your belief that, hey, I am a worm. People treat you like a worm, and the whole cycle just goes down and down and down and down and down, because your heart and your mind believe that reality. When we believe, what we believe also determines the enemy's ability to influence us. Working in the heart area uncovers our strongholds and hidden agendas. But if we really believe we're an eagle, how are we going to act? Like an eagle. How are other people going to treat us? Like an eagle, which reinforces how I believe about myself, which reinforces how people treat me, and then it just goes upward. So what we believe about ourselves is the basis of our reality. Right? It's true. That's why the Lord had Paul write about renewing the mind, because that's changing what we really, really believe about ourselves. Because if I really believe that nobody likes me, I don't have any friends, that I can't let anybody close because I'm always being hurt, how am I going to act? They have all these walls up, all these masks, and nobody's going to be able to get close to me, because if I let people get close, I get hurt. And so my reality is determined by what I really, really, really believe. If I believe that God brings beautiful people into my life, and I can really enjoy them while I have them, but I can hold them close with an open hand, so when they walk into my life, it's fantastic. When they walk out of my life, it's okay. How's that going to determine my behavior? Well, won't it? Does that make me a nicer person to be around than someone that says, oh, Maria, don't you dare walk out of my life. Don't you dare leave me. What's going to happen? Maria's going to say, let me out of here. Yeah, that's right. So what we really believe determines our actions. That's why heart belief is so important to get down to. And that's what we got to get down to. But in the meantime, let's go have a cuppa. Okay, we're up to capital E, bringing light to darkness, the steps in the healing process. Bringing light to darkness. So these are the steps. Remember last time I gave you the 4 steps to inner healing? This is now the 6 steps with theophostic, so they've added a few more concepts to it. So number 1, discover the painful emotions in your heart. The first step in getting healed of the stuck emotions in your heart is to look for the reaction cycles that cause the emotions that you feel. For some people, the emotions come before any awareness of reaction cycles. Now, because we're working with the heart, what I want you to do at this point is just check. Just have a quick inner look inside your heart. So is your heart with us, and does it understand what we're talking about tonight? Just check inside. Okay, good. Now for most of us that might be a new experience, but it's basically just to step out of the intellectual, yes I can do this sort of idea, into what's your inner reaction to the whole thing. So if inside of your heart was a lake, for some people it would be very calm and clear lake. Other people would be very choppy and all over the place. And if your lake is very choppy and all over the place, what's your heart telling you? I don't want to do this. I'm having trouble with this. Buttons are getting pushed here. I don't want to sit here. I want to get out and leave. So that's just exactly what's happening, what's happening in your heart. So hopefully everybody was somewhere in between those two. So everybody coping all right? Was there any question that your heart just bubbled up to the surface that you need to ask? Okay, good. So number 1, discover the painful emotions in your heart. Number 2, express your emotions. Next, aim to put these emotions into word. Sometimes use a pain scale to express the right intensity, and then list the name for the emotions. Explore your emotions until you get as near 10 out of 10 for intensity. Don't be afraid. We are now adults and now don't need to fear a beating for our feelings, because the feelings themselves cannot hurt you. Your emotions themselves cannot hurt you. We need to learn that we are now free to express our feelings. In fact, the only way our heart can be liberated from the hurt that's there is to express our emotions. If you have trouble verbalizing your feelings, you need to learn how to do that. So there's several things in that. Number one, when you're working with the emotions, it's like I said, when you go into a doctor and say it hurts there somewhere, and they begin to touch you to find out where the pain is. And sometimes emotions are like that. You have to stay with the emotions long enough to be able to say, okay, what really the most painful emotion in all of this is anger. Not irritation, that's in there too. Resentment, yeah, that's in there too. Annoyance, yeah, that's in there too. But what really is the strongest emotion for me is anger. In fact, it's a 10 out of 10. I am so angry with what happened back here. That's where I need to head. So an intensity rating scale sometimes helps people get in touch with their emotion. Down to where the real wound is there in the heart. Jennifer?
What happens if you're working with someone and they cannot get in touch with the pain?
Mm-hmm.
Logically, they know
Yes.
that they were in pain, but they're unable to get to the pain point.
Yeah, then you probably need to keep working the experience. Then sometimes it helps to get the inner healing, and Lord, show me the next step where we're having is to the injury site. So sometimes they know that there's pain there, but they can't get in touch with the real depth of the pain until you get them back to the situation where that actually happened. And then they get in touch with the emotions a little bit more. And you can always ask the Lord to come in and show them, reveal to them, show them where the emotions are. Because for this sort of thing, getting in touch with the emotions is important. Number 3, allow the emotions to take you to the injury site. Allow the emotions to take you to the injury site. Once you've identified your feelings and have expressed them to someone, ask Jesus to follow the trail of feelings to the memory of the childhood trauma. So, all right, let's go back to the example of the spider. So I'm coming because I've got all this fear, intense phobias about spiders. That's where my painful emotions are. That's just every time I'm around spiders or pictures of spiders or people talk about spiders, I just lose it. So I've got some painful emotions. 2, I express those emotions. So I sit down and I work out what's the emotion that is most powerful in that whole long list. So I might come up with 20 emotions that I'm feeling and then have to pick the most painful one. And the most painful one might be the feeling of being out of control. That for me might have been the most painful one. Yep.
Would that trail almost always go back to childhood from your experience dealing with people?
Mm-hmm.
Or would say like 90% would go back to childhood with most people?
Yeah, probably 90%. Depends on how old we are. Some of us, then the trauma happened when we were early married life. So sometimes the trauma can happen there. But yeah, probably 90% would go back to childhood stuff, one form or another. All right, so I express the emotion. I work through. I've identified what my emotion is. 10 out of 10 emotion in that whole scenario about spiders would be the feeling of being out of control. I just can't predict when I walk into a room where one's going to be there or not. And I just feel insecure. I'm out of control whenever I'm around somewhere where spiders might be happening. Then, step 3, allow the emotions to take me to the injury site. So I concentrate on that feeling of out of control. Once you've identified the feelings, express them, ask Jesus to follow the trail of the feelings to the trauma. So, Lord, take me back to the first time I was feeling that out of control feeling, or when that was a major feeling for me. Sometimes the Lord doesn't take you back to the entry point the first time. Sometimes He takes you to other events and then slowly works you back. I often find that entry points are fairly small, insignificant, seemingly insignificant events. So it's like first time is the seed that got planted. The 3rd or 4th or 5th time that thing happened might be the huge blackberry bush that's now controlling your life. But often first-time events are very small events where there's not much emotion, there's not much pain, there's not much trouble to the whole thing, because it's the entry point. That's where the seed got planted. So I find personally the closer you can get back to the entry point, the better it is. For some people, that's saying, okay, I can't remember any of this, the Lord show me. And he might bring a picture back of for some people, even before they were born, is where some of this stuff starts happening. I'm working with one lady that knows that something happened between, and this sounds funny because scripturally we don't know where we were before we were conceived. But she says it's like before I was back there with God, but between then and when I was actually conceived, something got me. That's pretty amazing stuff. But then from then on, there was just trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. So a lot of her work is going back to even conception and pre-birth stuff. And that's where you just got to let go and really follow by what the Holy Spirit's showing you. So allow the emotions to take you to the injury site. So notice it's not the logic that takes you to the injury site. So it's not, I remember Mother said that I did this, and this. Not the logic, but it's the emotions that will drift you back, because it's the emotions that show you where the pain was. Number 4, let Jesus expose the lie that you believe. The lie that you believe. When you have drifted to the childhood trauma memory, Jesus will want to meet you there for inner healing. Because Jesus is the truth, ask him to expose the lie that your heart has believed all these years. June.
What happens if you don't meet Jesus?
Well, sometimes you can say to the person, I handle it several different ways. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but this is probably a good place to bring it up. I usually ask the person to look around the picture, the memory picture. Is the presence of the Lord there somewhere, some awareness? And some people will say, well, as a little girl, I didn't know Jesus, so no, he's not there. Now, logically and scripturally, we could say, well, God is everywhere, so God really was there for you. But for her, she doesn't believe that. So number 1, there's one little hint about what's the lie she's believing. But what I often then try to do is say, okay, I want you to see yourself at your age, to go back to that experience and sit down with that little girl. So it's like the person that we are today then makes some sort of connection to that trauma part back there. And for a lot of people, we're so blocked off from our childhood that a lot of the pain that's back there, we don't say, okay, that was me back there. A lot of people can just chop it off, and they are who they are today. It has nothing to do with them back there. And so by having the person at their age go back into that situation, it tells you several things. Often, then I work them through, okay, can you talk to that little girl that's going through so much pain and so much trauma? And sometimes there's a block there. And so I say, well, what are you feeling toward that little girl? And then the moment you feel that there's some negative stuff starting to happen, I usually say, okay, put the little child in a glass dome so that she doesn't hear this. But now go back and ask Jesus why you have these negative feelings about the little girl. And sometimes the Lord will say, well, you don't like her. Or you blame her for all the problems, that if she'd been a good little girl back there and not, wandered into the room and been molested, you wouldn't be feeling what you are today. And so we hold unforgiveness toward what that little girl did way back there. And we blame and, all of that. So by working through that with Jesus, it's almost like, okay, now he really is there because he's telling me all these things about that little girl. And so then when you say, okay, go back and let the Lord talk to the little girl, it's very easy to do because he's just told you all these things. So does that help answer? Yeah. Because that's very common, is that people say, oh, well, no, the Lord's, I don't sense him being there. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? It's a good question, June. So, let Jesus expose the lie that you believe. Now, if we use the spider example, what I might really believe is that life is so unpredictable that because of, well, we'll usually pick on mothers, we'll pick on a father this time, because my dad didn't protect me as that little girl, then I get hurt too easily. And I can't trust my dad, and I can't trust that he's going to be there to protect me. And so I have to protect myself. And maybe even God can't protect me. So the ultimate lie would be what? About who? About God. That's right. That God can't protect me. So if God can't protect me, who's got to do it? I've got to do it. So I have got to check out every single spot in the room because there might be spiders there. So the insecurity is driven by the lie that people don't protect me. I've got to do it myself. So have Jesus give you the Rhema truth. As he speaks to you in the vision or by words, it will have an impact on your spirit. Not only will the lie be exposed, but also he will give you an aha Rhema that can be accepted by your heart. The heart also will be comforted and or healed. Does your heart accept the truth as given by Jesus? So check your heart. How's your heart reacting to what I'm saying about this stuff? Can Jesus bring truth? Will your heart let Jesus bring truth, and you can accept it? Just have a heart check. Now, most people, once they get this concept down, they can do it pretty quickly. You didn't need 5, 10, 15 minutes to get in touch with what was happening on the inside. Most people, once they understand how to do this, can do it pretty quickly. And I'm finding for myself, the more I can learn to do this, the better I can protect my heart. Because if my heart's starting getting troubled, what does that tell me? That I'm not protecting my heart. So the moment I start getting agitated on the inside and I lose my peace, means my heart's being exposed to something. And so that's when I need to step in and, okay, heart, what's happening in here? And just get in touch with yourself and, Lord, what are you saying about this? So have Jesus give you the Rhema truth. What might be a Rhema truth that he would speak to me about spiders? Give me some suggestions. What might he say? So I've been unprotected by my dad. Dad couldn't protect me, so I'm exposed. Maybe God can't protect me. What might be some Rhema truth he'd speak to me?
Maybe your father was unprotected by his heart.
Good, that would be a good one. So therefore my heart would say, okay, so my dad didn't protect me because he wasn't protected. So he didn't know how. Okay, God, I can forgive him for that now. Because he didn't do it deliberately. He didn't know what was happening in there. Good. What might be some other ones? Well, what does some scripture say about God being there for us? He'll never leave us or forsake us. So even though I didn't sense that he was there, God was really there. And God knew exactly what was happening in the whole thing. But then you got to be really careful of that, because if you're working with people who've been really traumatized, what does the heart say back, quick as a flash? Why did he allow it? If God's such a good God and he loves me, why did he allow that? And so then you have to stop and deal with all that stuff, because a lot of that is generated by lies that the enemy has fed us. It's sort of like God speaks a different language from us. So we don't say, God, you come speak my language and then I'll hear you. What do we have to do? We have to learn to speak his language. And so we have to learn how to see things the way that he sees them. And when we start doing that, then that brings faith, and then we can see that God was there. And he really was protecting us. We didn't think he was, but he really was there and he was protecting us. But that is such a hard one, especially when you're working with people that have been severely traumatized and severely hurt as a child. And often it's only the Rhema, the aha word from the Lord, that breaks that open. You can't touch it with your logic. You can't rationalize, explain it away from them. You can share your own answers, because some of the things that I've had to work through, I've had to ask God that. Okay, where were you in all of that? So you can share your own answers, but most people, it's only the aha Rhema from God that helps break that open for them. So again, encourage them to seek that, rather than just bury it and use religion or say, good Christians don't feel that way. Come on, God was there, just get on with it. That only hurts, doesn't it? So you need to encourage them to seek their answers for where was God in all of that. And then 6, seal the healing with forgiveness. Seal the healing with forgiveness. When Jesus has healed you and there is no more pain, your heart can forgive the abuser from the heart. This means taking your judgment off them, setting them free to the choice of their will, releasing them into God's justice and His work in their lives. It does not mean pardon. And a lot of people, when they work through forgiveness, confuse the two. So they're trying to get their heart to the point where the heart can say, okay, I was really hurt, but it doesn't matter. I can just sort of just wipe it away, and it doesn't matter. And how does the heart feel about that when you try to do that? It gets angry. It feels betrayed. It feels like, hey, you don't even understand my pain if you're trying to just dismiss it that it happened. Because that's what pardon is, and only God can pardon people. And He does it because it cost Him a lot in Jesus' death. So He can pardon people because Jesus paid the penalty. But when people try to work through forgiveness from the angle of, oh, it doesn't matter that I got hurt here. No. So you can't do that. It's saying, yeah, I was really, really hurt in this situation. It was unjust. My dad had no right to do what he did to me. He was ignorant. It happened to him as a child. He wasn't protected. But he had no right to treat me the way that he did. Because that's truth, isn't it? You betcha, that's truth. And so we have to get to saying that. But the forgiveness means, okay, God, I can turn my dad over to you, into your justice, and you'll bring justice. So my need for justice I can give to God. So always make sure it's not denial that you're trying to make your heart step into. Because the heart says, no, you're betraying me. I got hurt. And you can't say it does not matter, because it really does. The heart feels that pain. But the forgiveness is being able to say, okay, God, I got hurt, but I'm going to trust your justice in all this. I'm going to give this person over to you, into your perfect justice, and he's going to get his just deserts. In fact, his absolute just deserts for what he did to me is what? No, that's what the heart says. But what would God say is the absolute justice for someone that's abused a little child? Only if he chooses to. But God says the absolute justice is if he finds Jesus. Because then he'll come under the convicting power of knowing what he did wrong. He'll understand how much hurt and pain that he caused an innocent little child. But justice isn't for me to say, okay, send him to hell, God. That's not justice. Because if I demand justice for him, what's going to happen for all the things I've done wrong that God says, well, Susan, what about justice for all the things you did wrong? And I'm going to have to say, well, Lord, I didn't think about that. Oh, it's much better just to put it all into your hands, Lord. Your justice is what we're after. So it's not erasing the pain in a sense that it doesn't matter, I can forgive and it doesn't matter. That's pardon. That is not forgiveness. And God does not want you to bring pardon to that person. That's his place that he brings pardon. So the absolute perfect justice would be for that person to come to Jesus and then come under the convicting power of the Holy Spirit to know what he did wrong and then to get the healing in his own life so that he doesn't do it again and again and again and again. Yeah, well then God, reluctantly he will let people go to hell, won't he? Of their own free choice, he will let them go to hell. And hell is going to be filled with people who have rejected God's choice again and again and again and again and again. So, yeah. So, seal the healing through forgiveness. It's the hurt and bitter heart that cannot forgive. And remember, Jesus didn't say, just forgive with your intellect. Did he say that? No, he said, from your heart. So the reason why people can't forgive from their heart is because their heart is angry, bitter, resentful, because they haven't worked through these issues to that depth. And so they can't forgive. They can forgive with their mind, their logic can forgive, their intellect can forgive. But the next time they're with that person and they hear the same thing all over again, what happens? Kaboom! It just comes up all over again. So they haven't forgiven from their heart. And God's the only one that knows whether our heart's been involved in the whole thing or not. So, by allowing Father God to heal, the entry point where the reactions first started, we find release of our heart lies. The truth goes down into the heart. We find a healing, peace, and release. The memory will still be there, but the pain will be gone. So when you work through healing of the memories, God doesn't just come in and go zap and take away the memories, because that would be false. That would be deception. And God's not that. He's straight arrow. He's true. So the memories are still going to be there, but the pain of the memories will not be there. If the lies we believe about God stop our healing. The lies we believe about God stop our healing. Some of the most common lies about God, the most common lies. Going through hurt and trauma in our childhood may leave us believing certain things about God. Since our behavior comes from our belief, we live as though certain lies are really truth. The following are some of the common beliefs that have embedded into our thinking and in our behaving. Number 1, God is unconcerned about the pain and about us. But the truth is, what's the truth? He is concerned. He is aware. If he's aware of the number of hairs on your head, he's aware and he's concerned. God is mean, unforgiving, unless we meet his standards. Is that true? No. So what's the truth? Yeah, any of those. He is untrustworthy or even unpredictable, and he has some hidden plan to give us pain. So he's going to send you off to China and make you a missionary. Okay, so God is a God of love. Is he going to do that? He may send you off to China to make you a missionary, but it's because your heart will be there already. It's because that's where your heart is already. So he follows through the gifting that he's given you, and it will be a good thing, a best thing, if that happens. But he's not going to make everybody go off and do the most terrible, painful thing in their life. It doesn't work that way. He's a God of love. His love is conditional. His approval is based on being perfect. Do I have to be perfect to please God? No. Only one perfect one pleased God, and that was Jesus. He's absent when I needed him the most. He's unavailable to us. I will never leave you or forsake you. It's us learning his language, the language of faith, that taps us into God. God will take away any good things we might want or enjoy, always wanting us to endure, to sacrifice for him. Does God give us good things? You betcha. Multitudes of good things. In fact, sometimes we have to ask the Lord to expand our ability to take in the good things, because he does. God is always critical, and nothing will please him, least of all when we fail or we are imperfect. That's very similar to the other one about being perfect, and that's not true. Any more true than if you had a precious little 2-year-old that wasn't perfect, would you still love them? Sure. He rejects us because he doesn't know what's important to us. Does God know what's important to us? Yes. God is unfair and partial to those who please him most. Is that true? No. But you'd be amazed at how many people believe some of these lies. Number 2, 4 common distorted views of God. So here's 4 more. Actually, 5 common views. Distorted views of God. Along with the lies we have learned about a loving Father God, we can also have strong ideas about who he really is and the plans he has for his universe. The following are 5 common views about his nature. First of all, he's a legalistic God. This old man with a beard view keeps accounts of what we do, waits for us to step out of line, tries to check up on us so he can mark us as the losers that we think we are. And a lot of people have that view about God. They think he's sitting there with this little black book and he writes down all the things we do bad, all the wrongs we do bad. Is that true? No. Second one, the gotcha God. This model shows God much like the supreme Sherlock Holmes, wearing all the latest detective gear. He's always following us at a short distance, waiting for the moment we step outside his guidelines. Then he yells, "Gotcha!" demanding we meet his standards or we will be punished.
What's the difference between someone
Yes. And that's probably, particularly in our day and age, when it's almost like we've got the view of anything goes sort of thing. So if we're in a family that has godly discipline, we learn that not everything goes. There are guidelines. So sometimes it is punishment by God, or maybe punishment's the wrong word. It's more correction to bring us back on path, rather than suffering because I did something wrong. Some of that takes a maturity. Some of it takes a sense of, okay, Lord, I've sprained my ankle 4 times in a row here. What are you saying to me? And he might say, well, you're wearing the wrong kind of shoes when you're trying to go uphill. So what do you expect when you treat your body wrong? Then that's suffering from the consequences of what we've done wrong. Or he might say, well, I've been trying to get you to slow down all this time, because if you keep running at 100 miles an hour, you're going to burn out and you're just going to collapse. So my discipline is saying, slow down. And the only way I can get you to slow down is to arrange for painful accidents. Remember one of the techniques that the shepherd had when the sheep would always wander away and always get to the point where, the wolves were after it? What did the shepherd actually have to do to the sheep? Pick it, but he had to do something to it first. So sometimes he had to actually break or hurt the lamb enough, and then he'd put it, he'd carry the lamb for a while until the healing came. Because if the lamb just kept wandering away and wandering away and wandering away, it was going to get eaten by the wolves. So some sheep just have that wandering tendency, that no matter how careful the shepherd was, it would wander and wander and wander away. So sometimes the discipline of the Lord is just that.
So would you say that the key to that is that when God is correcting us, that it's under like a blanket of protection? Whereas when you have the mental picture that he's punishing you, that it's just for, just to be mean.
Yeah.
The other side of that is it's correction.
Yes.
Brings protection.
Yes. Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I take all things from my Father's hand. But there was a point, I think I shared with one of the other classes, when I dislocated my knee. Did I share that? And some people say yes. I was digging in the compost pile, and I just had this nice, fresh, I want to paint the picture really well for you, this nice, fresh, smelly mound of compost bin sitting there. And I put the shovel against my kneecap, and I pushed. And the next moment, I was writhing in agony in the compost in the manure pile because I just pushed my kneecap off my knee. And I was, in so much pain I couldn't even scream, but I hollered for Daniel, and the Lord told him just to grab my leg and just pull it straight, and he did, and it just popped right back over into it. And I said, Lord, why did this happen? Here I am. I'm your precious child, and nothing is supposed to hurt me that Satan can't get to me. So, Lord, I take this from your hand, but why did it happen? Because that's, it's not something you do every day. And so he put me on that path, just exactly what you're talking about. What's the difference between godly discipline and what's just pain for pain's sake? Because the enemy does pain for pain's sake. No redeeming quality out of the pain at all, just pain. So he began taking me a little bit on this journey. And please forgive Daniel as he comes around and gets your coffee cups. I really enjoy Hannah Hernard's book. Have any of you read it? Some of it, Hind's Feet on High Places? The basic theme of her book is that all things work together for good. Scriptural? Sure. That everything that comes into our life, God can use for good. So I believe that. But what I did then was take it the next step of saying, okay, everything that comes into my life, I will get good from it. Is that scriptural? Yes. Took one step further. Therefore, I will welcome all things into my life because I will learn good from them. What do you think? Just starting to get a little bit dicey there. Because does the Bible say to welcome all things into your life because you're going to learn from them? No. But where I really stepped out of line was when I said, therefore, I will seek all experiences because I will learn good out of them. That's right. Right there, I opened the door to just let the enemy come in and bring destruction in my life because I will learn good from it. And so I opened myself to whatever experience Satan wanted to bring in my life, and I would learn something out of it. So some of it is just those step by step deceived thinking things where we find pretty soon we're out here on a limb, and God's way back here, and we're out here on a limb unprotected because we're believing certain things that are not true. And so the Lord showed me at that time, He gave me a picture of, it was like a pen full of, a corral full of cattle. And Satan was just running around going, stick, 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 stick. No good come out of it at all, but just the pain for the pain because of the pain. And that's where He showed me that's where I was at, and believing what I was believing. So that was not redemptive pain. That was not disciplining pain. That was not, pain that God could transform into good in our life. And that was satanic pain. That was just pain for pain's sake. So I learned a lot from that experience. Don't recommend you digging compost pins with shovels on your kneecap, though, because that... Okay, let's keep going. So the gotcha God. The sitting and waiting God, high and removed from us in the heavens. He awaits our burnt offerings, our homage, and our worship, daily expecting that we will be there for Him. So sort of the Old Testament God, which isn't true as well. The philosopher's God, the cold, distant, unmoved creator who began the universe, but He is not involved with the daily running of our lives, our heavens, but He's not really involved in us, and we're not really involved in Him. Is that true? No. The last one, the harsh judge God. Much like the heavy-handed taskmaster or horrible godfather of the mafia who always demands our matching up to his unfathomable plans, always asking for more than we can give him. And it's amazing how many people buy into one of those five or all five of those views of who God is. For many people, these false concepts come from having an earthly father who did betray and crush them. If we believe these lies, we have the wrong concepts and feelings about God Himself. Our heart will have trouble trusting Him. Certainly it will. Allowing Him into the deepest parts of our heart. If we find the inner healing journey hard to start with, we will find the inner healing journey hard to start or keep on track if we believe any one of those lies. Because who wants the harsh judge to come in and heal our heart? He's just going to come in and crush it instead of healing it. So often our views of God are very important. Capital G, the half-truths my heart still believes. The half-truths. We explored 9 of the more common beliefs about God and how these beliefs will warp our present thinking. Then we covered 6 common boxes that we put God into. The following is another list of common half-truths and outright lies that our heart may still hang on to. Number 1, I am all alone and nobody will help. And maybe God has forsaken me too. Sometimes the heart really believes that, and then there's a list of the usual emotions that come with that belief. 2, I'm an idiot. I'm stupid because I should have done something to stop it, whatever it was, the abuse or the pain or whatever. I caused it by being a girl, by my looks, by being, with my dad, etc., etc., etc. Shame, guilt, blame, numb, flawed, broken, and useless are what our heart feels in the emotions that come out of it. 3, because this happened to me, I am broken and damaged and I never will be happy. 4, I'm going to be caught again and no one can stop it. Fear, panic, anxiety, feeling numb, betrayed, and trapped are the usual emotions that go with that lie. I cannot stop this and there's no way out. I'm too weak to resist. The pain is too great. Even God can't help me. Overwhelmed, powerless, trapped, hopeless, weak, and feeling panic are the usual emotions. Number 6. This is a very common one. I'm not loved. I'm not wanted, cared for, or important enough to be bothered with. And maybe even God feels that way about me. 7, everything is confusing. Nothing makes sense. Why are they doing this to me? I feel so lost and confused. So confusion, disjointed, disordered are the usual emotions that go with those feelings. So there are 7 common lies that our heart still hangs on to. And I find in working through my own journey, there was several of those things I really had to confront and work through in my heart. Probably the biggest one for me was that I was not rescued. That nobody was there to help me, nobody was there to save me. And the truth is, what's the truth of that? Was God there? Yes. And so that's been part of my own healing journey, is to find out where God was in those circumstances. Conclusions. We all begin with dysfunction in our life, as we all inherited sin through the parents that we had. We need the courage to lower the defenses that have prevented our healing. Exposing the hidden, deeply traumatized memories in the presence of a caring God is a necessary task. However, if the heart is unable, too injured, or too caught up in false beliefs, then we will find it difficult to change. When we internalize a truer understanding of the nature of God, then we can allow the heart to be real and begin to trust. Facing dysfunction honestly allows a loving Father God to do the work needed in our heart and in our life. Jesus came to restore us back to being normal as we walk with Him. He brings the balance into our life that grows us, that allows us to grow and discover who God meant us to be. He is the restorer of normal in our lives. Jesus knows the truth, and by allowing Him access to our reactions, we can find wholeness. If we can discover the reaction, the emotions, the thinking patterns, or the memory, then we can find out the heart's half-truth and the lie that it believes, and then we can get healed. And that's the process. Now, a couple of things to work on. If you get a chance to, just let the Lord work through some of this. A couple of you have already shared some of the things that happened over the last couple of weeks as you started to think about inner healing stuff, and that's been really great. So if the Lord brings an experience in your life when you realize you are in the middle of a reaction, and this reaction, you're just tired of being in the reaction, then follow the steps through and let Him work you through some of these areas. Our workshop next week, what I'd like to do is a little bit of practical, or a little bit of theory, and then spend as much time as we can in on practical sort of stuff. Now, I've also, before you pack up so nicely, put in Appendix A is a little bit of a rating sheet, one of those things that I don't know if I like doing, so if you don't do it, don't worry about it. It's one of those 1 to 5 things of 1. 5 represents the deepest, strongest pain, and there are about 11 different areas in there where the heart can still be broken and chained and bruised and hurt. So if you get a chance, sit down and do that over the next week. But next week we'll do some theory, a little bit of theory, and hopefully as much time on the practical as possible. Might even have a volunteer if somebody feels brave enough, and we'll do some of the inner healing stuff. Any last minute questions? Good point, Jennifer. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
They don't understand the concept.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus being there, but at least they're hearing the pain.
Yes. Good point. So you can use the concept about hearing from your heart and facing the pain in there, even if someone doesn't know Jesus. But I find that it's really interesting that once you get someone listening to their heart, then it's very easy then to take the next step and ask God, because most people, whether they're Christians or not, have some idea of God. And once God begins to talk to them, it's very easy to say, well, now, would you like to know this person that's talking to you? Because who's really talking to you is the Lord. And so would you like to know that person? But heart skills, definitely. The more I use it, the more sold I'm on it. If I could write a book, it would be on how to listen to your heart and protect it. Absolutely essential. Good. Any other questions? A lot of stuff to think about, isn't it? Yeah. It's true. It's transformed my life. It's one of the things I enjoy about counseling is because you can be sitting there helping someone work through their heart issues, and you're working through your own stuff. You don't let it show. You don't let it interfere with what you're doing with them, but the Lord can just be working with your own stuff while you're helping somebody else. Because I think working with heart stuff that's where it's at. That's exactly where it's at. Good. Last minute questions? Okay, how about I pray for you? Lord Jesus, thank you for your revelation to each one of us about heart stuff. And Lord, over this next week, as we are becoming more and more aware of heart stuff, help us to tune into and see our heart the way that you see us. And that's not as this big judgmental God demanding perfection, but it's you're right there beside us, willing and ready and wanting to work through this journey for each one of us. So Lord, I thank you for your love for each one of us, your patience for us, your teaching that goes deeper and deeper whenever we allow you to do that. I ask your blessings on the people that are here, their obedience to you. And Lord, continue to teach us. Continue to help us use the time that we have here on earth to allow you to teach us and to grow us. In your precious name, Jesus. Amen. See you all next week.